to you Bernhard Seliger. He's the resident representative of Hanns Seidel Foundation based in Seoul. Today he's going to speak about the Korean Peninsula and the great importance of the biodiverse area in the demilitarized zone separating North and South. The Hanns Seidel Foundation aims to promote peace and reconciliation on the Korean Peninsula. Since 2015, the foundation has been committed to bring the actors in North Korea, especially the Ministry of Environment and Land Protection, together with representatives of international organizations and national governments. Dr. Seliger will present the projects of the last 2 decades, both in North Korea and in the border area in South Korea, where military guarded division coexists with biodiversity. Thank you very much for joining the panel today, and welcome to Dr. Bernhard Seliger.
Okay, I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you perfectly.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction, and my heartfelt congratulations for Terrestrial Assemblage and for the curators, especially Kumba Kim, who had so much effort to bring all this together. We had hoped 2 years ago that maybe we would today have North and South Koreans together. But as always, politics, a pandemic, and many other problems came together there. I also very happy to see some familiar faces among the people here, like Mr. Ibongi and Mrs. Gaidetsis, who joined us, I think, for our first event 16 years ago on the importance of border areas in Asia and nature protection. So what I want to do now is to start my presentation. I hope it works, and I hope you can see it now. Is that okay?
Just one moment until we have it on the screen. Yes, perfect. Now you can start.
Okay. So in 20 minutes or so to talk about projects in North and South Korea and in the border is almost impossible. So please let me rush through a little bit. I just shortly, Germany has various political foundations, and beside doing civic education in the country, we also do development projects worldwide. And our project here in Korea exists since 1987 in South Korea and since 2003 in North Korea. We want to promote reconciliation on the Korean Peninsula. But as you can imagine, while in South Korea we can do something like unification, preparation, etc., in North Korea that is very difficult. So we decided to work on very concrete projects. And those projects where also Germany might have some value added. And the green belt in Germany, the former inner German border, in our opinion, is a very good example for that. So we work now since 2003 in North Korea, and since 2008 with afforestation projects. We had clean development projects, organic agriculture, and since 2015 now this series on nature protection. But first, let's think of South Korea. This is our team for the so-called big day that was last Saturday, the World Migratory Bird Day. And we are in a park in Songdo in South Korea and surveying birds. And that is the reality in much of South Korea. So you have fenced in patches of nature, very small one, with sometimes astounding biodiversity, but completely overwhelmed by the human factor. By these high rises of 40, 50 or 60 flaws. So still, we saw some good species like the Chinese Pontarian. We were happy, but that's a reality of South Korea. At the border, it looks a little bit different. And as I said, the green belt was always our big role model there. And thanks for the BUND and the German Office of Nature Conservation and other actors for preserving it so well. So this is the inner Korean border. And you see already on the left hand, two key species of crane, the red-crowned crane and the white-naped crane, which are incredibly rare. Together, less than 15,000 of these species survive in the wilderness, and many of them wintering in the DMZ. We did surveys regularly in various areas along the east and west coast. And among our key findings the areas are important for conservation, but unfortunately, it's not the military which destroys nature in the area, though their impact can be heavy. But ironically, mines and fortifications and fences in a way protect the birds from the population pressure, from the human pressure. And we see, especially in the industrialization of agriculture, a very, very problematic development in South Korea. So the open streams will be put into concrete pipes. Every patch of unused nature disappears in a very fast rate. This is different from North Korea, unfortunately for the wrong reasons, meaning that in North Korea, by default, because there's no development, there's still a lot of nature there. So the big issue for us is how can we explain to the North Korean partners that we want them to have better houses, a warm winter, enough food, but at the same time to protect their environment. It's a problem we know from all around the world. And actually, some of my colleagues in the past were also involved in this area between Palestine and Israel, which is now such a tragic area, unfortunately. But it's still a thing which is almost not so, has a solution. So the protection is there, but it gets less now. The South Korean decided to reduce the so-called civilian control zone, which is a good development for the people because less influence of the military. But immediately, wherever they do it, new roads will be built, new pensions, new small agro industries. So this is really a terrible development. And here you see some of these. On the one hand, the South Koreans are very aware of their natural treasures, and they love to build plastic cranes everywhere. But there's something like an equation. The more plastic cranes there are, the less real are there. And they try everywhere to build better roads and other better infrastructure. These are some impressions from here. And now we turn over to North Korea. When you are at the border, these are pictures from Gangwon-do, so 50 kilometers from Seoul, roughly. You can, with a good scope, look over to the northern side. And there you have a very different view. And I want to show you as a very small introduction some small video, which is now running, hopefully. Okay, that was one of the most famous songs of North Korea. Actually, that's the song I like to sing when we are in Norebang in the singing room in North Korea. For one reason, it's one of the very few North Korean songs which is completely free of ideology. It's a love song about, life in countryside and the peach tree. So it's very difficult to find this kind of song, but it's very, very popular in North Korea and also in the South. So let's look a little bit at the situation, how it looks in the north. And I want first to present one very important migratory bird reserve, the Kumya Reserve, which is near Wonsan in the east coast. Please show it.
여기는 조선 반도의 중부 동해 요난 지역의 송존만에 위치하고 있는 금야 철새 습지 보호구입니다. 이 지역에서는 기러기류, 고니류, 오리류, 두루미류, 물개리 등 계절에 따라 4만 2천여 마리 이상의 물새들이 날아와 서식 활동을 진행하고 있으며 흰죽지 흰눈오리, 안락꼬리 마더여 등 14종에 달하는 위협종 철새들의 서식 활동이 진행된다고 합니다. 그런 것으로 해서 금야 철새 습지 보호구는 동아시아 오세안주 철새 이동 경로 지역망에 등록됐으며 잠재적인 람사르 습지로 인정되고 있습니다. 하기에 지난 시기 우리나라의 습지 생태계와 철새에 대한 조사를 진행한 여러 나라의 전문가들은 참으로 조선의 습지는 그 아름다움과 생물 다양성의 풍부함에 있어서 그대로가 세계의 보물, 자연유산으로 된다고 한결같이 평했습니다. 진정 우리는 습지 생태계라는 이 한 가지 측면을 놓고 본 우리나라의 모습을 통해서도 풍요한 산천, 아름다운 우리나라에서 사는 한없는 자부심을 가지게 됩니다.
I don't know what you feel when you see that. Maybe you find it skittish with all the music there and so, but I was extremely touched because these kind of media our partners in North Korea develop, in the last 5 years they did it very, very often. Almost every month you find articles, you find new books, etc., which they develop, and we find this is a very good sign that the awareness of nature is growing. So already in this video, the so-called Asian Pacific Flyway or East-Asian Australasian Flyway was mentioned. So birds are migrating from north to south, and here in East Asia, the Yellow Sea area or the Korean Peninsula is a real bottleneck. That means all 2 or 3 million birds which are migrating every year have to cross here. And China is developed, Japan is developed, South Korea is developed, and North Korea, for many species, is now the only remaining stopover. What I mean is that in South Korea, for example, in the last 50 years, 75% of tidal flats disappeared through human activity. North Korea tries the same, but fortunately with our big machines, so there's still some more room for the birds. And the Flyway has founded this Flyway partnership with a lot of international NGOs, international organizations, and governments. And we are very happy that since 3 years, North Korean government is also part of it. This is one really very symbolic picture, which is often used from the Flyway partnership. You see these roosting birds, and then the impact of the humans. I have to go through here, and there are many iconic species like the black-faced, like the spoon-billed sandpiper, which we see here, and there are only very, very few of them left. I want shortly to talk about conservation projects we have. So we started with survey projects, maybe on the East Coast especially, in Rason and in Gangwon-do and in Hamgyong-namdo. Plus we did capacity building, introduction of the Ramsar Convention, etc. And we want to support the membership of DPRK or North Korea in international organizations related to protection of nature, and help them to have well-educated wetland managers and understand also in a broader area as a population better the importance of biodiversity. So you see some pictures of what we did. There was, in the last years, as I said, much more interest in migratory species in North Korea. And there's a very nice short video, I hope.
The aim of this entire trip is to get to Sindo Island. It's where they saw huge flocks of godwits all those years ago across the Yalu River from China.
There appears to be a lot of habitat over there which doesn't seem to have been as badly affected by development. It could be that we find a lot of birds.
So are the godwits fleeing the pollution for the safe, clean haven of Sindo? Finding out isn't easy. The island is a highly militarized border region, off limits to foreigners.
Among the foreign visitors, there are some evildoers, so the government cannot help but take some appropriate measures to prevent these activities.
We're not allowed to leave our hotels while we wait.
That's the toughest part, I think, of being here is, is not having the freedom to wander wherever we like, which, we can at home.
Time is filled looking out the window, people on bikes, loudspeakers urging them to work hard. Images of the ruling Kim family dominate the landscape. Huge portraits and massive statues of the great leader Kim Il-sung and his son, dear leader Kim Jong-il. Well, someone very high up in the North Korean government has signed off our access to Sindo Island. The only way there is by boat. Supplies and entourage in tow, we board. The economic might of China on one side, rural North Korea on the other. It's a 3-hour trip to Sindo Island down the Yalu River. Arriving is tricky. There's no wharf, so we make land via another moored boat. New Zealanders and North Koreans. It's all hands on and off deck as we unload supplies and luggage. Accommodation is the island's only hotel. Power can be intermittent in North Korea.
Yep.
It's an early night.
Korea's being invaded.
The incoming tide is driving massive flocks of bar-tailed godwits towards the shoreline. For the birders, it's a David Attenborough moment.
Looking down on this incredible sight.
Noisily swooping, rising, falling.
Seem to be hearing a lot of chatter out there. A lot of gossip going on out there.
What we're seeing here is extraordinary.
Seeing these amazing birds with my own eyes makes me excited.
Closer and closer they come. Counting is becoming impossible. The task now is to identify colour bands so we know where they're from.
From New Zealand.
The godwits are now literally right on top of us.
I've seen identifiable birds, and just the aerial display they put on for us, that's a rarity to be able to be so close to them. I rate this place a 10.
A 10?
A 10.
The Miranda team's expectations
So many birds. Such a great place.
have been blown out of the water.
Now they're all awake. Whoa. And they're all up.
Here they go.
Elephant Rock Bay's pristine natural habitat has been hidden from Western eyes for so long, but the world's about to find out.
How many foreigners have been to this place?
You are the very first one.
An unlikely collaboration between two very different countries, one open, one closed, is giving these threatened shorebirds a chance.
Okay, I hope it was understandable for you, and I think really the team from Miranda Trust in New Zealand did wonderful work there, and we did similar work on the East Coast in the Rason area. We find this is a kind of mirror of the situation in between North and South Korea, because here we have Chinese, Russian, and Korean wetlands, but without, fortunately, the same tension which we have in the southern part between North and South Korea. So in 2014, we started doing surveys there, trying to educate the wetland managers, and we hope to promote cross-country relations and hopefully one day a joint cross-border Ramsar site or cross-border protected area. I won't have too much time to look through this, but I want to say one more thing. For us, it was always important to bring our partners from DPRK to other places. Here, like Maipo in Hong Kong, which is a very famous wetland in East Asia, one of the first ones which was well managed, or to Vietnam, or to Vladivostok, or to other places, because there they have the chance to exchange with international partners, and not the least also with partners from South Korea. So especially in the Flyway partnership, we had wonderful encounters between both sides. And that is for us very important. And we are now currently working on the Yellow Sea or West Sea Working Group with the IUCN and the Ramsar Regional Center, where we want to bring together partners from China, from North and South Korea, to work together at the conservation of this ultra important site for the East-Asian Australasian Flyway. Finally, I want to show you one example of how it can go from here. We always tell our partners it's important you preserve the nature, but ideally also this preservation of nature should give you better, improved incomes, because if you are very poor from a poor country and don't know what sometimes where the food comes from, it's very important to give this perspective. And one idea for that is soft tourism or ecotourism. So we started the so-called Swan Goose Festival in Moondog, and I want to show you a short video of that. Okay. So this brought together really everything we wanted to do with our partners in the North. That is academic conference and a survey and the possibility for North Koreans and for a lot of international guests to see the importance of the wetland and an opportunity to train wetland managers. And finally, also some of our guests could go into schools and talk with school children about the importance of the flyway and about the nature of the flyway. So we were very grateful for the partners in the North and also our international partners to organize that. And I think I leave it there. I just want to give a short outlook. This is a poster from the last World Migratory Bird Day. And we are very happy that despite Corona, the pandemic, North Korea actively participated. And I gave you some insights in the problems the flyway has, because everywhere where we have development and this dense population, like in East Asia, conflicts are to be expected. But in the last video, you saw in the beginning a white bird. It's called the black-faced spoonbill. And that bird is iconic for North and South Korea because it's only traveling in China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, North and South Korea, and sometimes Japan. And when 20 years ago the first population counts were made, there were around 2,000 of them. And this year, 5,500 and something were counted. So they are also the first success stories of conservation. And I would really invite everybody from the arts, from the academia, and from the topical sciences, and also the people, the citizens, to work together in Germany for preserving the European African flyway and the nature we have in Germany, the beautiful nature, and the same here in East Asia for the people of East Asia. And in that sense, I'm very happy that I had the opportunity to talk to you here. Thank you very much. Kamsamnida. Dankeschön.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Seliger, for these very impressive images and these insights into your projects.